the golden goose. There were once 3 brothers, the youngest of whom was called Dummling, or simpleton, and he was despised, mocked, and sneered at on every occasion. One day, the eldest brother was going to the forest to chop wood. His mother gave him a beautiful, sweet cake and a bottle of wine so he wouldn't be hungry or thirsty. When he entered the forest, he met a little gray-haired old man who said,
"Do you give me a piece of cake out of your pocket and let me have a draught of your wine? I am so hungry and thirsty."
The clever eldest brother answered, "Aye, if I give you my cake and wine, I'll have none for myself. Be off with you." He left the little man standing and went on. But when he began to chop down a tree, he made an awkward stroke and the axe cut him in the arm, so that he had to go home and have it bound up. This was the little gray man's doing. Then the second son went into the forest, and his mother gave him, like the eldest, a cake and a bottle of wine. The little old grey man met him and asked him for a piece of cake and a drink of wine. But the second son also said, sensibly enough, "What I give, you will be taken away from my own lunch. Be off." And he left the little man standing and went on. His punishment, however, came swiftly. When he had made a few blows at the tree, he struck himself in the leg and had to be carried home. Then Dummling said, "Father, do let me go and cut wood." The father answered, "Your brothers have hurt themselves trying. Don't go, you do not understand anything about it." But Dummling begged so long that at last he said, "Just go then. You will get wiser by hurting yourself." His mother gave him a cake made with water and baked in the cinders, and a bottle of sour beer. When he came to the forest, the little old grey man met him and said,
"Oh, give me a piece of your cake and a drink out of your bottle. I am so hungry and thirsty."
Dummling answered, "I have only cinder cake and a sour beer. If that pleases you, we will sit down together and eat." So they sat down. But when Dummling pulled out his cinder cake, it was a fine, sweet cake, and the sour beer had become good wine. They ate and drank, and after that the little man said,
"Since you have a good heart and are willing to share what you have, I will give you good luck. There stands an old tree. Cut it down and you will find something at the roots."
Then the little man said goodbye. Dummling cut down the tree, and when it fell, there was a goose sitting in the roots with feathers of pure gold. Dummling carried the golden goose to an inn where he was going to stay the night. The innkeeper had 3 daughters who all saw the goose and wanted to pluck one of its golden feathers. As soon as Dummling had gone up to his room to sleep, the eldest daughter seized the goose by the wing, but her finger and hand stuck fast to it. The second daughter reached out too, but her hand touched her sister, and she was stuck fast as well. The two stuck sisters screamed to the third to keep away, but this youngest thought, "The others are there, I may as well be there too," and ran to them. As soon as she had touched her sister, she was stuck fast to her, so they all had to spend the night with the goose. The next morning, Dummling took the goose under his arm and set out, without thinking much about the three girls who were stuck to it. They were obliged to run after him continually, now left, now right, wherever his legs took him. In the middle of the fields, the parson met them, and when he saw the procession, he said, "For shame, you good-for-nothing girls! Why are you running across the fields after this young man?" He seized the youngest girl by the hand to pull her away, but as soon as he touched her, he was stuck fast too, and was obliged to run behind the rest. Dummling, the goose, the three sisters, and the parson were trotting together, one behind the other, when two labourers carrying hoes came from the fields. The parson called out to them and begged that they would set him free, but they had scarcely touched him when they were held fast, and now there were 7 of them stuck to the goose, trotting along in a long line. They came to a city where a king ruled who had a daughter who was so serious that no one could make her laugh. The king had decreed that anyone who could make her laugh would be able to marry her. When Dummling heard this, he went with his goose and a long procession before the king's daughter, and as soon as the princess saw the 7 stuck people running, one behind the other, she began to laugh loudly, as if she would never stop. Dummling finally put the goose down, and all the stuck people tumbled off in a great pile, and the king's daughter, well, she laughed even more. Dummling asked to marry her, but the king did not like the simple look of him, and to put him off said he must first produce a man who could drink a cellar of wine. Dummling thought the little grey man might help him, so he went into the forest, and in the same place where he had felled the tree, he saw a man who had a very sorrowful face. Dummling asked him what was wrong, and he answered, "Oh, I have such a great thirst, and cannot quench it. I cannot stand water. I have just emptied a barrel of wine, but that to me is like a mere drop on a hot stone." "I can help you," said Dummling. "Come with me, and your thirst will be quenched." He led the man into the king's cellar. The man bent over the huge barrels and drank and drank and drank till his loins hurt, and before the day was out, he had emptied all the barrels. Dummling asked once more to marry the princess, but the king didn't want such an ugly fellow, whom everyone called Dummling, to take away his daughter. He made a new condition, saying Dummling must first find a man who could eat a whole mountain of bread. Dummling found a man in the forest who said, "I have eaten a whole oven full of rolls, but I am still hungry. Whatever shall I do?" Dummling led the man to the king's palace, where all the flour in the whole kingdom was collected, and from it a huge mountain of bread was baked. The man from the forest began to eat, and by the end of one day the whole mountain had vanished. Then Dummling, for the third time, asked for his bride, but the king again sought a way out and ordered he find a ship that could sail on land and on water. "As soon as you come sailing back in it," said he, "you shall have my daughter for a wife." Dummling went straight into the forest, and the little grey man said,
"I will give you the ship, because you once were kind to me."
Then he gave him a ship that could sail on land and water, and when the king saw it, he could no longer prevent Dummling from marrying his daughter. The wedding was celebrated, and after the king's death, Dummling inherited his kingdom, and he lived for a very long time, so happy with his wife.